Meeting of the Preservation Board is now in order. I will establish a roll. Commissioner Robinson, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Vincent-Tanner, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Commissioner Alderman Greg Schmidt, are you here?
Yes.
Nate Johnson, are you here?
Yes.
Aaron Wright, are you here? Yes. Did I miss a commissioner? Commissioners, have you had the opportunity to review the minutes from the April 28th meeting?
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion, hearing none. The minutes are approved. Take a look at the agenda, Commissioners. Is there anybody who would like to change the order in which these are being presented? Additions or subtractions by staff or by Commissioners? Okay, then let's try to proceed with this as our agenda. And I'll call agenda item A, 5570 South Broadway.
Actually, to address here. This is the one that we need to discuss more in depth. This is Bellridge Park. And the proposal by Great Rivers Greenway with the endorsement of the Carondelet Community Betterment Federation is to install a trail in it, leading from the pavilion that you see at the top of the bluff down to the southern end to join Broadway, the southern end at Dover Avenue. Our jurisdiction on this property is two. One is that it's city park, and second that it is in the boundaries of the South Broadway Bluff Landmark. Here's the boundaries of the landmark in blue. Now we're also going to see briefly some work proposed for Sister Marie Charles Park, which is just south, and that staff feels is perfectly appropriate. So we're recommending approval on that. This is the proposed new trail. This is one end of the pavilion. The trail will go down here. It will have a viewing platform for a landing at this point. We'll have another one at this point. Come down here to Dover Avenue, where there'll be a little entry plaza with a monument. Now, what is also outlined in gray is an existing set of stone stairs that obviously this will impact. The staff is concerned about that as an important element of the park. This is the proposed changes to Sister Marie Charles Park, which is essentially getting rid of the existing parking lot and having to turn around. As I said, the staff is supporting that without any conditions or questions. Taking a look at Bellridge Park as we go down Broadway to the south, there of course is Bellridge Bridge, which is not, there's no work proposed for that. So the trail will be coming down the bluff and turning and going back towards the river. This is the historic stone stair. This is the jogging using stair. It is functional and it is in use. And it is, as I said, a historic element of the park. However, most of it is proposed for removal. We had met with representatives from Great Rivers Greenway, engineers for the project, and TDS, and suggested that at least remnants of the stairs be considered to be retained. There is a matching stair, at least in the same design, although much shorter, on the north side of the park. At the top, this was an area that was parking that has been removed, and the trail will start at this point. Looking down from the top of the bluff to Broadway, the trail will run along, and then looking back towards the bridge. Sister Marie Charles Park very quickly. It's existing conditions, looking at the north, towards the walkway, which is not, there's no work proposed for that. I got it. So, staff is recommending, as I said, this is Sister Marie Charles Park. the Preservation Board recommend approval to the Board of Public Service. Our only jurisdiction over that park is as a city park. However, we have a stronger jurisdiction over the landmark, and this trail will change the topography of the southern end of the park, particularly. So that is something that the landmark designation was place to try to avoid. I don't have any other drawings. What I've just shown you, it's a little difficult to assess exactly how much that impact will be, and perhaps when the presentation is done by the Access Engineering that will occur. The staff is strongly recommending that some consideration be made to the existing cells there. As much as possible.
Commissioners, are there any questions for our staff?
So, I mean, what would you recommend? Like, I mean,
well, we thought at least the upper part, let's go back to, this area at the very least does not seem to be impacted by the proposed trail. And there are certain considerations that have to be adhered to as slopes and that kind of thing for the trail. But at a minimum, that seems to be able to have to be restored. It'd be nice if we could have that in too, but I think that we had asked that the engineers take a look at that possibility and they may address the practicality of that tonight.
Other questions, Commissioners? Thank you. Okay, we have several people signed in to speak. Commissioners, you should know I am a consultant to Great Rivers Greenway on a variety of issues, not on this one. I repeat, I will not participate in this discussion, nor will I vote. So I never vote, and there are 7 of you today, and there's no circumstance in which I would vote. So, with that said, Tom Purcell.
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be good for the commission to see the engineer from Great River Greenway present the presentation, and then we as the committee organization will present our comments on why we think it should be approved.
What is the name of the...
Access Engineering.
Okay, let's hear from Access Engineering.
Thank you, Chair. I also say that Gateway Engineering, GRG is not here. Our person we've been working with, she's on jury duty and should be here maybe later this time, but that's why she's not here.
I'm afraid of GRG. I don't care why they're not here.
Thank you for letting us present this brief PowerPoint presentation. I'll try to go relatively quickly through some of the higher points. If I'm moving too quickly, can you please let me know? My name is Marie Dennis, and I'm with Access Engineering.
I had to try to figure out what that meant. I thought it meant you wanted to give you a snack.
Yeah, I read that.
Okay.
This is what we're presenting is the Mississippi River Greenway Seed Project, which is a connection between Belle Reve and Sister Marie Charles Park. We are directly contracted with Great Rivers Greenway District. However, we are representing the Department of Parks and Recreation, Forestry, and the Board of Public Service in the development of this project. I think you all probably know about the Great Rivers Greenway District River Ring Plan. This connection is directly it is a part of the Mississippi River Greenway, which is part of the River Ring Plan. And in 2012, early 2012, GRG started a study, which was the Mississippi River Greenway Planning Project, an effort that was designed to connect the Gateway Arch grounds over to River de Pere and Jefferson Barracks Park and the River de Pere Greenway. Part of that plan resulted in something that is called the long-term bluff plan loop, which is a desire to connect pedestrian and bike trail along Broadway over to the Sister Marie Charles and Bellerive Park area, then down to the river level, and then adjacent to the river back to, I believe it's Gasconated First Street. This slide that I just showed you is a slide that's directly from that plan. This is another slide that's directly from that plan, and it was envisioned that there would be a switchback between Bellerive Park and Sister Marie Charles Park to provide a connection to introduce more cohesiveness between the parks. The Carondelet Betterment has a three-phase plan, one that was already completed, and that is to remove the parking that Jan showed you in Bellerive Park and install some BMPs, which was a bioretention facility. And then phase 2 connects the two parks, and phase 3 introduces that circle in Sister Marie Charles. Here's a rendering of the plan as it stands. This is not the engineering drawing, this is just a rendering showing the connection, which is exactly the same. Does anybody have any questions about the orientation here? So this is Bellerive Park, this is Sister Marie Charles Park. So we're connecting the playground area via the switchback, and then along Broadway and Elwood to the circle. These are the engineering plans. I won't bore you with those. These are some typical sections that show, in order to provide the switchback, there needs to be a couple locations where we have small walls, small wall here, in a fill section, small wall here, in a cut section, and a taller wall here. I'm going to back up and show you where those two walls are. There's a very short wall here on a fill section. There's another short wall on a cut section here. And then the taller wall is on the back side here. And it faces just a wooded area, and it really doesn't have much visibility.
Where are the stairs at?
The staircase that Jan had highlighted are right here. I'll get into that just a little bit further, so I will talk about that more. This is a view from what we call that landing that Jan talked about. Again, that's the vantage point from right here. That is actually, it's going to be a nice viewpoint, a vantage point, looking at the live industrial riverfront. It is actually intended for accessibility purposes because the path, just in order to stick with the trail accessibility guidelines. So this is the engineering drawing of Elwood, and this is an artist's rendering of Elwood. In this area, during the study, it was pretty clear that there's an architectural element with the limestone and brick and eyebrow type windows that's fairly pervasive throughout the Mississippi River Greenway. This is another treatment that we see as fairly pervasive through the area. And I wanted to show you the River de Pere Greenway signature, which many of you may have seen this along Carondelet and Germania, which is the Mississippi River Greenway connects into the River de Pere Greenway, as I stated before. The project that we're working on is a seed project for this greenway. And Great Rivers Greenway District very much likes to introduce a signature for greenways. And we wanted to dovetail this signature with river repair and yet give the Mississippi River Greenway its own signature. So I'll show you a little adaptation of that in just a moment. This is a fill section. It's kind of similar to that area that I pointed out that was the resting area, which is a relatively short wall. This is another view of what that short wall would look like. And this is the wall type that we would propose for that taller wall that I said is facing the wood, or facing the wooded area. And this is the adaptation that we are looking to introduce, so that it's somewhat similar to the river repair signature, but it has its own signature because it's introducing the red brick over the limestone. Where fences are proposed, we're trying to get the most transparent look, so we're looking at vertical rail, steel, black fence, similar to this. And I wanted to talk briefly about the stairs that Jan mentioned. This is the landing up at the top of the staircase looking towards the playground and the bioretention facility. This is the top set of stairs going towards that landing. You can see that the stairs are in poor shape, and if they're to be left in place, there really should be some repairs made to them. I would think you all would concur. And this is a flight down on the staircase, and kind of just showing how the stairs, pretty much you see this, along the staircase as you're going down to Broadway. We looked at our plans, and Jan is correct. We could preserve a portion of the stairs. This section here could be pretty much left in place and then repaired, and that would be this flight, which is the top flight of stairs. We could then shorten this landing some and take some of these stairs that are down here and push them further so that we have about a 6-foot landing, and then 7 treads down to another 6-foot landing. And then that could dovetail into the path. So what you have here, this is the path going down the hill. This is the resting area for accessibility reasons I was mentioning before. And this is the set of stairs that could remain in place but be repaired. And then the landing shortened, and then another set of treads introduced, and another landing adjacent to the path. So that's all I have. Are there any questions?
So when the additional stone is placed there for the landing, coming up north, if I were to be riding a bike heading north on Broadway, would I still be able to see over that landing area and see the stairs going up, the current stairs? Would they still be visible to somebody going up Broadway?
If you're on Broadway and you don't enter the path.
I do not enter the path. Currently, when you're heading north on Broadway, it is very obvious that those stairs are there. And I know what you said in terms of preservation and modification. But with the additional limestone wall, would that be hiding the visibility from anybody who's heading up on Broadway northward in a bike or otherwise?
So if you're talking about a perspective from a user who's riding along Broadway here to continue in this direction,
right,
that line of sight is like this. So it is not obstructed.
Okay.
And actually, this is a very low wall.
Okay, that's what I don't know how
Right, and actually, the staircase is just adjacent to the wall. It's just to the right side of the wall from the user's perspective in the direction that you were just mentioning.
Thank you.
Maybe I missed it. I mean, the photos that we're just looking at of the stairs that would be repaired and modified, is that the north set or the south set?
It's actually, the set that Jan showed you that is similar to this is actually on the other side of Belle Reeve Park.
Oh,
And it's not in the area.
okay.
Commissioners, further questions? Thank you. Alan goes next.
We appeared here a couple months ago about a project residential project. And the reason why I bring this map is to give you an idea, and I talked at that time about the development process of Crown Vallette. 90 blocks is where we're working. So it fits all the areas, and one of those areas that we've been working on in the last 15 years, others have been doing it as well as us, is parks. And so, starting 3 years ago, or 3 years ago, we've rebuilt Lions Park, Finetti Park, and Three Corners Park. So this idea that you're seeing today is the last part of our strategic plan of upgrading the open space. And all those parks were built over a period, and Lions Park was built in the 1930s, and Finetti Park in the 70s, and then Three Corners Park was built in honor of Alderman Villa, his father, and that was done in the 1980s. So all those have been upgraded. So this park change we're proposing here is one that fits in with the strategy of upgrading public space, of a strategy we started 5 years ago. And so it's just not coming out of nowhere. It's the last component of that. We started working on this with GRG and the Parks Department 3 years ago, and came up with, what was the goal? Well, the goal was to connect a park built in 1920s and a park built in the 1980s. And neither one of them were really maximizing their potential and what's happening. So that's why we took outside the parking, the first phase, which Jan and Marie talked about, was removing the parking of Marie and expanding the area for usage of the park. And then secondly, to connect it, we originally wanted to go behind the business that you saw there, but the business raised their cost too high, and we couldn't do that. And in fact, we were trying to bring in MSD. You know, when you change our city, its pluralism is an attribute of that, and you involve lots of different organizations and people to do that. And so MSD was an original partner, and we had to back away from that because of the acquisition issue. So our partners today is the Parks Department, the Board of Alderman Tom Villa, through the Neighborhood Tax Program, and GRG, and then Mr. Skillman in the Parks Department, who've been our partner for the last 5 years in reorganizing all of these parks. So what you saw the design was to connect these two parks, built 60 years apart, and to have them fit in with the 21st Century Crown Vallette. And in fact, the name of our strategy is 21st Century Crown Vallette. Not 20th and not 19th, but 21st. So that it competes and attracts talent and revenue and remains a vibrant part of Crown Vallette, of the city of St. Louis. So that's what you see today. We hope you will look at it favorably, and we think it's quite innovative, and the design works well. And in fact, from an implementation side, GRG and Board of Public Service are working as partners in terms of engineering, financing, and so forth. So it represents all the things that makes things happen in our city. Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
Who's next?
Who's next is Mr. Skillman, who's our Parks Director.
Just wanted to thank the board for the opportunity to be here today to present this plan, and I would hope for favorable approval, and we're most willing to work with the CRO office in resolving this issue on the stairways to make this very favorable project. This is something that, since the inception of when we acquired and built Sister Marie Charles Park, we've always been working since 1980, trying to come up with a connection where we connect the two parks, as opposed to having them being two separate parks. So I think this is our best foot forward to try to do that. And so we would appreciate your favorable recommendation. Thank you.
Questions, Mr. Thorne? Your chance. No, not yours. Many chance. The business here has been waiting for this for a while.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Miller?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Alderman Schmidt, Alderman Tom Vella, representing the residents of the 11th Ward, just to graciously accept the input of Betsy Bradley and Jan Cameron on this one. I think that the compromise which has been proposed makes a great deal of sense. The steps as we speak, need some work, but if we're looking to save that limestone look, I think this is a very reasonable compromise. We have been, as Mr. Purcell stated, we've been taking the voters' money on our park taxes and trying to redo our taxes, our park system down at Crownlet Park. This is going to be a unique situation where they can really get two spectacular views of the Mississippi River, and I would just urge that I think we're going to work with the engineering firm and with Jan and Betsy to get this one right. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioners?
I just have an observation, Alderman. First of all, congratulations. This is a great effort here, and I know it's not just you alone. You've got a number of people here. But many of us never really considered Sister Marie Charles Park as really part of that because we're not used to that. And so that connection, I think, is an important one. And you've elected, I guess, to do it more by a bike path as opposed to pedestrian, or you can use either one.
You can use it both, and we've had a number of meetings with David Newberger, so this is all ADA accessible, and it's really going to be neat. Our bike paths are absolutely first class. Besides the comments of the chairman aside, they just really do good work. I'm just amazed at how they treat these things, and they just again, when you, as you and I know, as we all know, when you got a constant stream of revenue, it makes it a lot easier to do things first class. And I think we're going to have without question, we're going to have walking and bike paths in the city that will be second to none.
And the other comment was, I saw the signature portion, and I know that the building that's there at Belle Reve is stucco, and the bridge is a concrete, and while there is brick across the street on a lot of the buildings, there's really not a whole lot of brick right there. It doesn't mean that that's not a signature. It means that it's not necessarily anything right there in Belle Reve Park.
Yeah, I think almost everything on the what would be the west side of Broadway is in fact red brick. But again, I think it's a well thought through compromise which makes sense.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and thank the members of the board for your service. Over the years, I've been on various and sundry. I've probably been on every board but the ironing board, and I know that it takes a lot of your time and talent, and we're grateful for that. You help us, you make the whole process work, and thank you for your efforts.
This is not a well-known fact, but Mr. Bill and I will be entering a tandem bicycle race. I'll be on the front, he'll be on the back, providing all the motive power. And two of our competitors are in the background. Tom, do any of your neighbors want to say anything?
No, I think we're all set.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman? Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
2 points really to make. As you've heard, this project has been in the works for about 3 years. We first saw it earlier this year, maybe 2 months ago. So we did not have a chance to provide any input about the nature, the need to preserve the costs in the landmark district. Speaking of the landmark district, meant specifically to protect the natural form of the park. The whole project is really counter to that intent. So I hope in your discussion that you will come to a good reason for how this project can be improved. I think the plan to retain some of the stairs is well done, and it's a compromise like you always said. But overall, Jessup County has done about the wetlands. So,
Questions, Commissioners? Should we get a motion to begin discussion?
I would move that we direct the Cultural Resource Office to convey a recommendation to the Board of Public Service that proposed improvement of Sister Marie Charles Park continue forward and that the applicants continue to work with the Cultural Resource Office staff in light of option 2 to further refine the proposal for Belle Reeve Park, the intent that it would mitigate the impact on the those steps, limestone steps, the lookout handrails and gateways.
Is there a second to the motion? Okay, discussion. Alderman, would you like to begin?
No, just, I mean, it's a great effort forward. I remember when Gateway Green was looking at the connection between some of our Native American mounds and the whole area along the riverfront. This area is spectacular. I remember as a child watching the boats going down the riverfront. It's a great effort now to try to bring together Sister Marie Charles Park, for whom it's named and for whom it's not, given the due that it really should have, and they're making that effort. So I think this all does that, and if they are able to protect some of the current elements, that will work really well. Chairman pointed that out, and I think their option 2 is
Commissioner Bidwell, you hated every park thing you've ever heard. Your comments?
Despite my friendly history with Commissioner Skillman in there. No, we've got a long way to go. I do see that there's concern about changing character of the park, but from an accessibility and I guess usability standpoint, I think this is a good project to meet the current needs of the park and the population that would use it. And so I think those are mitigating factors and I guess attracting someone from the character.
You've spoken about the bluffs before. What do you say now?
No, I recused myself from the bluffs before, but I would note, I mean, and Betsy has this in there that, I mean, it was, they were made a landmark for their, because it was a scenic spot, and I guess, you know, seeing those stairs, it's not really that accessible now for people to get up there. So I think if we could redo those stairs and save those stairs, that'd be great. I think it is a little disturbing that staff wasn't involved earlier in the process. We'd want to see that change in the future with the Parks Department. But I think the Alderman's motion for staff to continue to work, or the applicant to work with staff, save those stairs is reasonable.
And you heard that?
Yes.
No? Okay. Nate?
Yeah, I agree with the motion. I think that, continuing to work with CRO will ensure that it strikes the right balance with preservation and moving forward and achieving the level of accessibility that we need to provide access to that area for all of our citizens.
Is there enough in this motion to justify what we're doing?
Well, it sounds like there's been comments that the Cultural Resources Office staff had initially about the steps has been heard, and the plan has changed. So it seems to me that the stipulation that they'll work together to further refine the proposal is on the same footing.
Dan, have you heard enough from us?
I think I'd like to make a comment that we had not seen the design of the wall or the fence, so when we talked about having those elements, more of the monument, whatever, until tonight, so allow us to have some comments on it.
I think we've left you in this last use in the motion.
Sounds like.
Commissioners, in favor of the motion? And all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's do agenda item B, 212 North Kings Highway Boulevard. No, I'm looking for the time sheet for next one.
Oh,
This one I got.
oh, okay.
Proceed, go to the show.
Okay, good afternoon, members of the board, and those in the audience. I'm Betsy Bradley, Director of the Police Services Office. Item C it covers two addresses here, 212 North Kings Highway Boulevard, and the former Park Plaza, where most of the work will be done, is 230 to 232 North Kings Highway, but adding this address to the agenda item. Here is the portion of the Park Plaza that is under consideration for work. We have Maryland Avenue facade. Sorry about that, this is trick right. Okay, so the Maryland Avenue facade here, this portion of the Kings Highway facade, and this is the garage building, the opening of which we're also keeping. Here's the site plan, and the lines here show the area where the facade code changes will take place. And what we have here really is a master plan for how to establish how storefront conversion should take place. So we don't know exactly how many doors and windows openings there will be, but we put this plan when we get it finalized. We'll know what two types of openings would be. And here's a site plan proposed area that would be converted to Here are two views of the Maryland Plaza facade with storefronts, both from different dates in the 1980s. One was before 1987, one afterwards. And here on the easternmost base, we have one large expansive glass window space. So there was, or three of them there, were storefront activity there. The window sash on the western portion of the facade here has multi-pane windows, but not windows that we see in the building today. So we know that window sash has been changed over time. So this version of the current version have a lot of wall lights in the sash, particularly conducive to. Here's the portion of the Maryland Plaza facade, these storefronts, the current sash. Like I say, that the two bays flanking the entrance will not be altered in this plan. I have Again, here's the Kings Highway, most of the Kings Highway facade that will be included. And here's how the proposed storefronts might look. This is up-to-date except for the material of the stone steps, which I will show you later. There will be some combination of window bays and entrance bays. Both bays will maintain the division in the transom-like windows above those larger openings to 2 units or 3 units. So the new work will be very compatible with that. second floor down there. Signs would be below the height of the second story sill, and would be coordinated some signs that represent some new height design. So here we can compare the existing bays and proposed entrance bays. Here we see the steps in the dark granite color that is would be similar to that of the dark granite. The only loss of historic fabric would be the granite veneer below the show windows to take those openings down to floor level. So there would be, that would be the extent on the base that have entrance. And of course, that would not be all the bays that you see on Maryland Court. Here's a comparison of the bays with the proposed windows. They would have multi-light transoms that have larger show windows below that maintain precision. Here's a garage building with the name that's proposed to be altered. I've not thought very carefully about the age of those doors. They go into the position. And the idea here is to open those openings up during business hours of whatever entity is in there. And then the white doors to the ride show day could be closed. To make this more of an outdoor cafe type of area, flat and supported by two posts, is proposed to be inserted below the central house above the ride show. So it's going to have a canopy. It seems to be kind of a minimal expression of one. And remember the canopy projecting from the main entrance, some relationship with materials. Shelter underneath that. Yeah, this is the main entrance on the Maryland Place facade. Kind of an odd entrance with the exterior vestibule, as you see on the right. The doors set back somewhat. And the proposed change would be to sliding doors, maintain a sort of offset nature of the doors. And this is proposed in part wind tunnel problem, with a set of doors and further in the hallway there. And they're both open. Maybe it's expressed, I would see there, but it's functional reason and also pressure. The final thing that's proposed as part of this plan is to change the revolving doors at this section to, once again, sliding doors. Minimal change to some modern addition there. So, we do have some precedents for having storefronts in this area. Let's say that the entrances into the storefront would be a version of the storefront that we have not seen before, and all the entrances would be out of Maryland Place. Other than that, the overall plan for the storefront is still meets the standards, not exactly off the shelf, modern storefront units, although they are modern materials. And there is the ability to have protector behind where storefront no longer exists. Canopy is a standard, I think, for compatibility of the garage entrance. There's kind of a non-story set of doors and no particular character there. The new entrance doors and those pedestrian changes. The final details of some of these elements have not perhaps been worked out, and we would review each application, make sure that it conforms to the master plan. With those stipulations, that Conservation Board grants preliminary approval for the master plan, and we will review the approval application.
Trustee, for purpose of clarification, the address, the alternate address that you presented at the beginning of your testimony described the same building. Is that correct? Okay.
Well, that last set of revolving doors for the south side. Is that in the southern parcel, or is that on the first house?
We're only attempting to clarify, to make sure that we properly notice people on the hearing.
I think that if a final agenda did extend to the location of all the work, the mayor's typically not.
I'm sorry, the final agenda had encompassed everything that you testified about?
Yes.
And that one was published within 24 hours for a prior?
Published on Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if anybody actually read it, they would understand the extent of work. They just went off the variance.
That's my commissioner's question.
So are these storefronts also accessible from the interior of the hotel apartments?
Yes, they are. They would all have entrances from the lobby and on the interior of the building. For them to be accessible.
That was part of what I was asking, because it seemed to me that if we were losing that granite at the bottom, and I realized probably the floors are up higher, I wondered about accessibility working on this thing. So that would be...
Kathy's Western store is probably would be considered to have two entrances. One from the interior lobby from hotel apartment, hotel guest apartment, and one from the street.
That front doorway appeared to me, since we're getting rid of the rotating, or would be handicap accessible.
And then there's steps in the handicap entrance that if we're using the garage and around to behind the scenes and from the main lobby. That's and maybe other.
I mean, I think in general, all of this looks really great. I just wondered about making people use other pathways to get into the store, particularly when we're creating a new entrance to a specific place.
I looked at ramps and how to.
Other questions, commissioners? Thank you. Alderman Cruzen, would you like to speak first, last, not at all, in the middle, or whatever?
Good evening, Commissioner. Appreciate the chance to visit with you about this. The Chase Park Plaza, I think all of you know, is a really important historic structure in St. Louis and certainly in the Central West End. I'm very excited about the possibility of having retail there on that corner. I think it will activate the corner to a large degree, which has been missing forever, at least as long as I've been there, 30 years. But I also do think it's really important to do this correctly, because we are in a really important building. So I know that the Central West End Planning and Development Committee has a couple of comments about that, having to do with the materials on the steps and maybe the location of the stairs. And so I'll let them speak for themselves, but I believe, there's a balancing act here that we need to get to have the retail, but also to do a good job on this. There's no reason not to do a really top-notch job on this building. So, thank you.
Questions for the Alderman? Dan Tate?
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Tate with TRI Architects, representing Chase Park Plaza owners Behringer, located in Dallas. TRI's offices are located at 9812 Manchester Road, for the record. And when we started this project, we set out to create some design objectives with the owner to assure that as we go through this process, we understand where we want to get to, and that we're checking ourselves back all the time as we go through the design process. Number one, we wanted to create high-quality retail lease space on the first and second floor of the Chase Park Plaza along Maryland and along Washington. We also wanted to extend the street activity along Maryland Avenue. That's one of the challenges, is because most of the activity is really away from the building. We need to create and generate some interest to pull traffic, mostly foot traffic, more towards these new retail outlets. Then we want to maintain the architectural integrity of the Chase. That's probably the most important thing of all. And we also want to improve entry vestibules at the hotel and the residential entrances. This is in your packet. This is Exhibit 1, which is an aerial. The entrance that was talked about last was the hotel entry, which is actually number 9, which is just along Kings Highway. This is Maryland Avenue. This would be the first floor of the Chase. This would be a Maryland Avenue and Kings Highway. This is the area on the first floor that we're talking about creating retail on. There's also an opportunity on the second floor to create retail. So some of these stores may actually be 2-story. There may be some retail that's gotten to through the elevators of the building. This is the entry that's talked about and the wind tunnel effect. What happens is when these doors open right now, there's a pair of doors very close together that are on automatic entries. So they open simultaneously. The building has positive pressure in terms of its HVAC system, and that, along with the wind, creates a wind tunnel as the air moves from the lobby out, and it really gets pretty obnoxious for the residents. So the desire is to create a new storefront here that would be a slider, and then we're going to create a secondary set of doors much further away so that we really get more of a true vestibule, so that we don't have the condition where the doors are open at the same time. This would be an example of the second floor space that we plan to utilize as retail or service businesses. And Betsy did a great job explaining basically what our premise is, and that is to create activity by creating new storefronts, creating more transparency with the first floor of the building, able to take pedestrians from the street directly into the storefronts with the new entries. She did note that the stairs here, our original proposal was to do those in concrete, and based on some input from the community, we've decided to go ahead and implement granite stairs to match the existing building in order to mesh that better. And I've got some packets here with me today that reflect those changes. Another comment from the community was to basically create a more design-sensitive handrail, maybe something with a little more architectural interest to it in order to tie it better with the Chase. And we certainly intend to do that as well. This is an example of the divided light and the triple light where we would have a door in each one of those locations. This is the window condition. And then this is the cafe. And what's important about the cafe and why we think this is an important element, this is what's going to help us bridge some of that pedestrian desirability. Because as you look at the garage today, just to the left of that is a drive that's about 50 feet wide, and then the next storefront. So all the activity really stays to the other side of the drive right now. And if we can bring something out into the street that creates more activity, that will draw more pedestrians towards this end of the site, which we think will help our retail and also create an opportunity for an amenity for the community. This is the existing entry along Maryland for the residential. Again, this is the storefront door, the sliding door proposed. And this is the entry along Kings Highway for the hotel. And in that condition, they're wanting to replace the revolving door. When the wind blows and it comes off of Forest Park, it takes the doors and it snaps them in the open position as if it was an emergency. And so the wind just comes into the lobby. And it's just been an ongoing problem, especially this winter. And so replacing this will help satisfy ownership of the hotel and create a better vestibule and also keep the wind from blowing into the lobby. Questions?
you are on the process, I assume this has to all be approved by the building division and the Office on the Disabled, so I'm wondering about the stairs on the outside of the store. And any discussion about that?
It's been our position that we're going to have entries that are sort of equal in stature, the interior and the exterior, and we're going to utilize the interior entries that are currently accessible to access the stores, and that's our intention at this time.
So if I'm going by with my walker, or if I'm going by in a wheelchair, there's some way that I know that I'm going to go to the front of that building and it's accessible and I can go in that way.
Correct. So in the case of this, you would go to the entry along Kingston Highway, that's the main entry for the Chase, and go into the lobby of that location. For the residents currently, and another accessible entry is there at the garage, which could be utilized as well, although I think that's maybe not what we would propose.
Is there any further questions?
Who was Aris LLC versus, I think, is it the applicant was Aris LLC?
They are a real estate development group that are procuring tenants for the space. So tonight, normally Sarah would be here to help present this, but she is currently at the ICSC, which is the big retail convention in Las Vegas that goes on, over the weekend and the next few days, talking to tenants about this project.
Any further questions? Okay. Central West End can arrange itself however it wants to.
Thank you for that flexibility. I'm James Dwyer. I am chairman of the Planning and Development Committee of the Central West End Association, and I am happy to report that we agree with many of the things that have been said today, especially what Alderman Cruzen said at the outset, and that is that we believe that this proposal represents a significant opportunity for the neighborhood to move forward. We have believed for recent years that there is insufficient critical mass, or there is an absence of critical mass in the retailing component of the Central West End, and so in that regard, we think this proposal is significant and very appealing. I should also point out that we saw this for the first time a week ago Saturday morning, and we raised some questions at that time, and we didn't get to closure on those questions until midday Friday, and then we didn't get entirely to closure. One of the questions we raised had to do with where the property line is and whether these projecting steps represent an encroachment into the public right-of-way or not, and that issue is still unresolved as far as I am able to tell. Don't know the answer, and that we felt was critical. So the comments that you may have in front of you, I hope you do, 2 typewritten pages, address that issue, but recognize, please, that we're unclear whether the property line issue is relevant. Regardless of whether it is, we think the projecting steps are inappropriate and that there ought to be and should be a better solution than that. So on a good note, one of the first things we observed, what one of our committee members observed, was that the proposal called for concrete steps. We thought that was inappropriate. It was something that was clear to us at the outset. We raised the issue as soon as we recognized it, and to everyone's credit, that issue has been resolved. And so I hope that the tenor of that process can continue. There are just a few issues that we think deserve consideration, and we're hoping that in the context of a preliminary review, you will find that there is a way to preserve these issues for further discussion, development, and response before they are locked into granite. So, the proposed projecting steps, I've hit that topic well enough. I think the written document will speak for itself. The handrails, I was unaware that there had already been some discussion among the designers about improving the handrails. We thought, as I say here, that they were undistinguished. There was commentary a moment ago that has been recognized and will be addressed, so we're optimistic about that and hope you will keep that in mind. The display windows and the storefronts are an issue that we have discussed. I have discussed at considerable length with both Jan and Betsy, as well as the architect representing the owner. And I think that it isn't clear to me that there is any particularly defensible defensible perspective on that issue. I think that there are multiple possible answers and that any one of them could be argued to be the best one. Our position is that these openings have had different treatments over the years. I was able to get plans from the period when the building was under construction. Sam Koppler provided about a dozen photographs that indicated what was going on at that time in 1929 with these first floor windows. There are also, in the package you have, there are 3 photographs, I think it's on page 3, black and white photographs not in my package, I'm sorry, in the architect's package. There are 3 small photographs representing existing conditions and conditions in 1986. In the middle one of those 3, if you look at it closely, you'll see that the window in that opening was a single piece of glass. It was surmounted by a tripartite clerestory window, but the large piece of glass was a single piece. Cultural Resources has a different take on it than we do. They think that the lower windows should be divided into 3 pieces if there are 3 pieces of transom glass, or 2 if there are 2 pieces of transom glass. We're not convinced that that is the right answer, and we hope that that topic is open to reconsideration or further discussion at least. And we think that the 1986 photo gives some strength to that position. As was mentioned earlier with respect to signage, Betsy said something to the effect that the signage will be reviewed. Not everything that is shown in the presentation materials is code compliant or is consistent with the Central West End Historic District standards, and we would expect in the final analysis that whatever is proposed will turn out to be appropriate. And then finally, the cafe design. We think the cafe notion is fine, but there wasn't sufficient information presented to us. There wasn't adequate time for discussion to pursue that in great detail. And so our sense is that while the concept may be good, so the details should be evaluated or examined more closely. And that is it.
Questions, Mr. Dwyer?
Can you talk a little bit more about instead of the 2-inch aluminum frame, mention it?
Actually, Ralph Wafer is going to address that in greater detail. He's an architect, I am not, so we thought we would divide our responsibilities that way. Right?
Aaron had proposed for the handrails, there is a cap at the end with the snarling head of Ted Koppler. Tie in history.
Well, that head doesn't snarl these days, so we would have to find a vintage example.
It is unclear.
We're all in it together.
Image, though.
We're all in it together, and I think that hits on a theme that's important. There are so many people who have contributed to the dynamic environment in the Central West End these days. Ted Koppler and his crew with what they've done on the south side of Maryland Plaza, my partners and I with what we've done on the north side, and many others throughout the community have contributed significantly to bringing the West End to a place that is far beyond anything I imagined I would see in my lifetime. And the spirit of our comments has to do basically with ensuring that level of commitment to good detail, to good design, and to high quality is continued.
Would you want us to go as far as that recommendation today?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Would you want us to go as far as staff recommendation today? Or up to you?
To go as far as the staff recommendation. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar enough with the recommendation to react to that.
That recommendation is that we grant preliminary approval subject to review of each application material by our staff.
Well, as long as that statement includes the notion that the stairs are in play and perhaps should not be projecting, then I would say yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Ralph Wafer. I'm an architect and a member of the Central West End Association Planning and Development Committee. Hey Betsy, could we get the illustration that's on page 12 of the agenda? It's the proposed. It's the corner view and then the two elevation views and
comparison one, so it's just the overall percentage.
that one? Yeah. Well, in the agenda, it's all, well, that's fine. That's fine. I may ask you to move it to another one, but that's good for starters. In the agenda, it's all on one page, but if I'd like to just refer the commission to page 9 of your agenda. In the middle of the page, 7B, is when we wrote the new historic district standards, we did pay attention to storefronts, and we tried to create as much flexibility as possible in new standards so that storefronts are not necessarily replicas of original storefronts. And I think when most people think of storefronts, they're thinking of small commercial buildings that have classic storefronts. In this instance, when we were writing the standards, we were definitely not thinking of this building, but I think what we wrote can be applied. But the key word in there is, at the end of that sentence, may be of contemporary design. And in this instance, we're talking about a building that the uses of the space in this building on the first floor are going to be put to a completely new use that have never functioned this way before. Certainly, there's never been any exterior access. It's always been interior, and I suspect, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, that most of these rooms were function rooms for the hotel over most of their lifetime. So what we do when we convert these to active retail use, I think we should have, the architect and the developer should have a free hand, a creative free hand as to how the storefront glazing is done. And to answer your question, is right about 2-inch aluminum storefront. That is traditional, that's classic contemporary storefront, and it's just everywhere. Every mall has it. Everybody's got it. Family Dollar store has it. Everybody has it. We would love to encourage everyone involved here to move beyond that and find, from my own personal viewpoint, if we could find a piece of glass that would fit in to the masonry and you couldn't see the frame, that would be my ideal for it. Now, Betsy, if you could go to Andrea. There you go. That's the one. The illustration on the right shows the existing, which I think is circa 1986, transom panels. On the left, there are 2. On the right, there are 3. To back up and to go to sort of traditional storefront interpretation, normally what happens is if you have 2 transom panels, you have a single piece of glass underneath. If you have 3 transom panels, you have 2 pieces of glass underneath. What you're always trying to do is avoid a line where the mullions line up. You're trying to create a dynamic. And if you look in these illustrations, the windows above on the second floor line up the transom, which lines up the storefront panel, and it's just 2 lines all the way down. and creativity and a dynamic of some variation there is what's called for. But we would like this project, in our perfect world, the steps into the storefronts would be recessed into the building, and the glazing would be fixed glass with minimal frame. So I know I'm sort of getting into the weeds about this project in a sense, but it's an opportunity which doesn't come to us anywhere in St. Louis very often. And as Jim said, the fact that we're talking about this in our lifetime is to me just a just amazing thing to have happen. So I would just leave you with that the standards allow and encourage contemporary design, and this is a perfect example where that can be applied. And we hope the staff will agree with us and work towards that end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions about 2-inch storefront anymore? Okay.
Commissioners, we have a motion probably reserved for the staff review of the projecting discussion, the handrail, the display windows, all that, then start district standards, and that includes those issues. Okay, motion? Sure.
I'll make a motion that preliminary approval be granted with the understanding, subject to the review of issues especially pertaining to protecting steps, improving handrails, display windows, and storefronts. And all final decisions should be consistent with the Central West End standards, and the cafe design details should be approved by staff as well.
Second.
Discussion?
So, I know I keep coming back to this, but I just keep viewing myself trying to get into this storefront, and I have to go all the way, not knowing where the front entrance is. First of all, I'm not going to know where that is. I'm not going to know how to get into it. So if we are recessing that entranceway, there may be a way to do that without having that. Just adding that in.
Oh, yeah, I just apologize, and frankly, the idea of recessed entry just purchased, I just thought of it after you pointed it out.
So if it's not a recessed entry, you would probably need steps unless you were going to do some sort of elongated ramp, and nobody wants to necessarily look at that. But
I guess I'm a little concerned about whether the recessing of the entrance would make more of an impact on the building. I mean, there's the main pedestrian that has, well, the one, on the Maryland side does have that exterior vestibule.
If you know how to get in the front of that building.
I, actually having seen someone from a wheelchair here recently, I share that, but yeah, maybe you can address why ramps aren't feasible on the exterior, or did you study that a bit?
Well, we did study it. The ramps have to be long, of course, and start to take up a lot more of the sidewalk, and we didn't feel that it was going to be as good a solution as simply using the existing entries that are inside the building. We just feel like that will work better, and the overall sort of streetscape would be sort of more preserved and enhanced without them. Of course, that could all change when we speak to St. Louis City about accessibility. So I'm sure it's not a done issue.
They may be interested in knowing, and I'm someone who doesn't really like a whole bunch of signs, but there might be something faithfully done that just says entrance Kings Highway. Something that's clear to somebody who really would like to get in and use the store and has
architecture impediment.
Certainly signage would be incorporated at a minimum. I mean, that would sort of, we would need to do that as a matter of function.
See, our point in the motion wasn't to specify that we prefer a recessed entrance, but only to direct your attention to concerns that we heard in the course of
Yes, and I did want to jump in and conclude, make it clear we're not jumping into any conclusion about the plane of the entrance.
And I thought what Mr. Dwyer was saying is that the storefront would remain at the building line, it would not be recessed, but then you open the door and you walk in and there'll be stairs or a ramp inside.
Yeah, like I say, this is the new house.
Commissioners, further discussion?
Great project. Great project.
It is. We see the line. Commissioners, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioners, a scheduling issue has arisen, and although we decided originally to go with this agenda, I would instead, in order to capture the presence of the Commissioner detailed shortly, like to call 5277 Washington. Although the building of records is the mail, and it was most of it.
It's not my first rodeo. Bob Best with staff, I will tell the truth. I need to enter in ordinances 64689, 56768, my PowerPoint, my presentation. I think it will certified copy, that's what I said. That is right there. One second, I get caught up dancing around a little bit. I'll start talking. This is an appeal of a denial to install non-compliant roofing at 5277 Washington Place. And this is what? Okay. This is the house in question. In background, the owners had some hail damage on the property. They were working with their insurance company. They began work without a permit and started to install black slate. Right now they have a red slate roof on there, and they started doing work. They were stopped by the local inspector, I believe. And they came in, applied for a permit, explained the rules, decided they want to try to appeal the denial, and that's why we're here. Really cool building. Context, to the corner of Union and Washington. This is a good shot. This is a current shot showing application of the black slate actually on the side bay. Shows kind of the difference of how the two slates differ, how it will look from the street. The roof detail. Here's some context on the street. There are some existing materials on the block. Some red tiles down the street, I believe, across the street. We have a varying variety of materials, but original, well, some have been replaced as well. Down the block, I know on the bottom picture, the house with the round door in the middle, they've been working to install original slate deck. Okay. Standards state that if you're going to replace historic material, it should go back to what is there and not go back with a different historic material. The existing red slate roof obviously is original historic material, and changing it to a black slate that changes historic material, and thus why we denied the application. Staff feels that it's a significant change, as illustrated by this picture. Red to black will create a complete change to the house. They are proposing to leave the side gables red, I believe that's true. Yeah, but changing the slopes to black slate. Again, staff feels that it's a pretty drastic change from the original red to the black. The owner has a PowerPoint he'll show you earlier where they've done a color change. Actually, that actually helps show that it's a very stark change. So, and we have not heard, actually we have no official statement from, but then they're just kind of making notes in there. I'll talk to them in the lab, and there's no real statement on that. I'll say something about that later. But based on that, staff recommends that the board uphold the personnel application. Does not comply with the within historic district standards.
Questions?
Yeah, so I had some trouble. So there's a sentence that says, original or existing slate, tile, and metal roof shall be preserved to repair and maintain. So this can't be repaired, maintained?
That can be the roof material speaks to that matter. We were told that there was hail damage and it needed to be replaced.
So then the next sentence is, original or historic roof material shall not be replaced with another type of historic material that would change the character of the roof, replacing historic ceramic tiles, i.e. replacing historic ceramic tiles with slate shingles. So, I mean, that's type of material. So my problem is the first sentence says you're supposed to repair and maintain. And I guess if you can't do that, then it seems like going from red to black would be a problem.
Well, yeah, it's also about the character of the roof itself, and it's a pretty drastic change from the red to black. So looking at overall character of the roof, which is in there, the red slate to black, is a significant change. We feel that it is covered in the standards.
So if it was the case, if it was asphalt shingles and it was red and it went to black, would you have a problem?
It would be a historic material.
On the street, if there's an asphalt historic roof, you switch from red to black, would you have a problem?
Sorry, I'm getting had answers here by my boss. Excuse me.
Sorry. All right. I mean, yeah, for some reason I just have well, if you have a historic material like slate, you have to replace it. And so therefore, just the
No, I'm saying that it's the color. So the issue here is he is doing slate, right?
That's correct.
New slate. It's going from red to black, probably.
wrong slate.
The wrong for material and character.
No, it's the right material. The material slate, the color of the slate.
Actually, it's different slate, type of slate. Red slate is
Red slate does not have
it's not like it's just colored.
It doesn't have a color?
Well, when you're here at Take Village tonight, even though Bob's perfectly...
Okay. Let's go back for Sean. Obviously, the color of the roof was intent by the architect to design the house. By changing it to a different color, you are changing the historic appearance of the property to standards. It'd be the same thing as if you were to paint the front of that house white. Yeah, and it would look nice, but it wouldn't be correct, and it wouldn't be historic.
So, there's some things to me that seem clearer than others. So, if somebody came in here and they put a brown slate tile and a green slate tile and a red slate tile and a black slate tile and started doing a hodgepodge of slate on this thing, is that covered under this, you think that's covered under this ordinance portion? Stored material?
You think if they're replacing the original color with a hodgepodge of, it goes back to what we're saying now, that if the character change, it goes completely against the intent of what they're doing with the roofing standards.
So that kind of fits into this portion about preserving it through repair and maintenance.
Right.
And that was the thing that Mr. Richardson talked about. On the other hand, and this is, again, I'm going to say this is one of the reasons I don't have one of these local historic districts, I think, and they don't all have to be this, they're all unique, of course, but, so if this person comes in and totally replaces it all with brown slate, or replaces it all with black slate, wording of this ordinance indicates that that's a change in the material.
Yes, again, because different slate are different kinds of slates. There are different kinds of red slate versus black slate. It's different material types of staff.
So, and then Commissioner Richardson's next question basically is, so if I have a material that's on there like the asphalt shingle, and so if I have a blue asphalt shingle, I have to keep a blue asphalt shingle forever. It can never get.
That's not what the standard states.
Right.
It's more focused towards the retention of historic material. It's been replaced, in the past, and be it asphalt, be it whatever, it's not historic. There's leeway into what you can use, and staff has dealt with that in the past. But if you have historic material, that is what we're focusing on, not if you have existing asphalt. When asphalt is probably fine.
So if I have a wooden window, I have to replace that with a wooden window and not with an aluminum window. Correct? I mean,
according to the Western standard, you actually have to repair that window first, so you can't repair that window.
Right, the same thing that has here, and if it's not reparable, then I have to replace it. Then I have to replace it with a wooden window and not with an aluminum window.
Depending on if it's a special window or not. Windows are a bad example to use for this because they're very...
Okay, it's in the front, and it's obvious that this is the biggest window in the front of this building. It was built this way by the architect, and under the historic standards, I would have to replace a wooden window with a wooden window, not an aluminum window, if it was not replicable.
So that's it, yes.
Okay. But if the architect put it in as a beige painted wooden window, I wouldn't necessarily have to make sure that I had a beige painted wooden window to replace it. It would just have to be a wooden window.
The color palette for windows.
Right.
There's a color palette for that if you're using it in terms of specific material.
Correct. Okay, that's my point.
Are you satisfied with your record? Okay, let's hear from the appellant. Arrange yourself the way you want to arrange yourself, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to address your committee today.
Before you begin,
yes,
tell us your name and address, please.
I was about to do that. My address is 5277 Washington.
The tape actually can't see your hand.
My name is Stan Clarson. My wife's Sue Carroll. We own this house at 5277 Washington Place.
Is the testimony you're going to give the truth?
Excuse me?
Is the testimony you're going to give the truth?
Absolutely.
Okay, proceed.
Let's see, how do I change this?
Easier.
Just to give you some background, this is a timeline of events leading up to work on the roof. We moved into this house in 1987. We became residents of the Central West End, and this past summer, we noticed a leaky roof. So we contacted insurance. Insurance agreed to cover the replacement of our slate roof. As it turns out, the only part that is replaced is the pitch part. And I'll get back to that in a minute. So about a month later, we entered into a roofing contract with Greg Lyons Company, and he's here also to answer questions. And sort of in concert with that, we had to make a choice for color. So this is, a year ago, and we chose the black slate. And I've got a slide or two that I'll go into that in a little more detail. It took until April of this year to begin the roof replacement due to delays shipping the slate down from Canada, weather, lots of weather, more weather, and so forth. So it began in early April, and about a week or so later, we got a stop work order into permit. And I have to say, under oath, I did not know we needed a permit. I guess I'm not alone. A lot of people have said that it weren't aware either. But of course, ignorance doesn't forgive us for not getting permits. So why did we choose black? That's sort of the issue here. Our insurance, as I mentioned, covers slanted part of the roof and not the gable ends. There are 3 gable ends, and this amounts to about half of the roof in terms of the amount of slate involved. So we had to make a choice here. In our minds, we thought it has to be a choice because the new red slate isn't going to match any of the existing red slate that's up there. It's weathered, it's got black streaks in it that don't wash off in the rain. So those two wouldn't match. We made this little colorized picture to help us decide. We did this last summer. And I chose like a red that I thought would be the color of red and a black just to see what the house would look like so we could make a decision. Everybody I showed this to said, oh, I like the black. Black is much better. It enhances the house. Works very well. Also, I've got a couple of points here. We've got a lot of black accents like gutters, downspouts, even the railings on the porch, our light posts. So black was now out of character. The red slate, as I mentioned, doesn't exactly match the old red slate, so we have color clashes, right? And as I mentioned too, aging adds black coloration to the old red slate. I mean, that's just other time. And the house already has a lot of red. We've got red brick, we've got, as I mentioned, the old red slate, red extension walls on the extension we did to our kitchen. So we thought black was a nice contrast color. And we thought it looked nice. We make the red sort of stand out and pop. I guess I don't really need to say that many St. Louis houses have red brick and black roofs. You know, it's very common. This is almost an iconic look to a St. Louis house. And it's not out of character for the city, it's not out of character for the neighborhood either. We saw some examples of red brick houses. Let's go to the next slide here and explain something. The picture on the right, I want to focus on that since you were focusing on it quite a bit. The black slate that's here was put up in error. They started on this corner and worked its way around. Greg can attest to that. That's going to be put back to the old red slate that we salvaged from the roof as the rest of it is replaced. So also you see the 2 gable ends here, the one on the west and the one on the east, which has red slate. It's not going to be replaced. It's not covered by insurance. I also let's see, right here, this seam, the white seam.
Everybody downrange, close your eyes.
Right. The seams between the red gable ends and the roof separate the black from the old red. There's no seam over here around the chimney. So that's why it looks so awful. And we picked this up right away. As soon as they started doing this, and, you know, they saw it from the street, I said, hey, that's not what we want. So I think it's going to look great. And I did want to emphasize that was safe. This also gives you a little better view of the accent colors. The downspout on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, gutters and so forth that are already black. It's black since we lost the house. Here's the view from the alley behind our house. It was the best shot I could get of the work that was already done. Here again, you see this part around the chimney. And you see that it really does belong to this gable end and not to the roof. There's a seam that runs right up there that separates it. So we think it logically belongs to the gable end and really shouldn't be covered by insurance because they only agree to cover the roof. Also, there's already copper valleys and these little pins that stick up to help prevent avalanches from the snow, which insurance didn't cover. We added those because we've already had some insurance claims based on snow falling off the roof. Okay, one more slide. So we love our house. We've maintained it well. We've done lots of improvements. We've always gotten the proper permits when necessary. This was the first time. We found that the black slate installed on the pitch parts of the roof was the best choice. Again, I think it's an iconic look for St. Louis. Therefore, we asked for a variance just to complete the roof. The back half of the roof, by the way, is all black, as you saw already, and we continued front. Black slate looks great. We've even received some compliments from people who've been on the back side of our house down the alley, and this could be finished up in just a few weeks. Are there any questions?
Did you read ordinance 5, 6, 7, 6, 8?
Is that one of our roofs?
The one right?
Yeah. The only problem I have with that is there's no mention of color. And there's
a question we will consider. Did you bring photographic evidence of the deteriorating condition of the roofing material?
I have that.
Good. And you'd like to introduce those into the record? Sure. Okay.
We had several companies that came out. One was Innovative.
Bob, would you like to correct the record on that ordinance number?
Right under the sign. Think we don't now?
69423.
Excellent.
At this point, when this comes from Innovative, they provided this evidence and talking to the insurance adjuster as well as Mr. Klein's company when the insurance decided to cover it. So I guess I'm free to use these pictures. They were given to me. And I've also got hard copies.
If that's what not.
It's my only copy, though.
It would be up to you whether you wanted to comply with the ordinance or not.
Make a copy. Or you can make a copy electronically. Okay, this shows some of these. I didn't take these pictures, so we're just kind of winging it here a bit.
I'm just bringing them slowly towards the 21st century.
Those actually have some annotations on them too, so that's probably better.
Okay. I'll send those to you.
So this is just a quick view. Again, you see the black, I don't know what it is, dirt, I guess, whatever, that has accumulated on a red tile.
That's history.
Pardon?
That's history.
History, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I want to call it patina, but I guess that's wrong. You see a lot of broken tiles here and so forth. So. But they said that the gable ends did not show any damage from hail, so they said only cover the top. I mean, we're kind of, if you imagine the 19th century architect of this house being told, okay, you got to replace half your roof. What are you going to do? That was the situation we were in. And we just think, aesthetically black works better.
Question?
So, I was listening, or trying to listen as well as I could to your testimony, and I appreciate it. So, what I gathered from what you said is that rather than just replacing areas of the roof with more red tile, you chose to replace the whole roof for consistency in the colorization of that roof.
Well, the insurance sort of dictated that decision to a large extent, because they said, we'll replace this part of your roof. What should we do, come back and say, no, just do these, 300 tiles or something?
But you could have replaced those 300 tiles with red tiles, but that would have looked out of place because your roof isn't red anymore, it's gold and red.
I'm not a roofing engineer. I don't know if that would have worked. I don't know how widespread the leakage was. We have a bedroom that we haven't used in over a year just because I can't put the plastering back. I can't do the work on the plastering until I get the roof fixed. That would be stupid, right?
So here's my problem. When you show me this roof, it's my view of that roof. So my view of that roof is that there are some tiles that need to be replaced and some tiles that didn't need to be replaced.
It's widespread enough where they decided, I think, let me try to remember what the insurance adjuster said. I think he said there's enough evidence that it could need replacing from hail damage or maybe not. I think got conflicting opinions. He recommended that a roofing engineer take a closer look at it, and the insurance company said, from this evidence, that they would just replace it. That they didn't want to mess around any further, they would just replace it.
Anybody else? Thank you. Mr. Rupert.
Hi, Greg Lane, Glen Roofing Company.
Okay, a couple of questions.
Sure.
Could you repair this roof?
No,
Why?
because of the deteriorated condition and the damage from the hail.
Have you ever worked with slate before?
I've been doing slate roofs for 27 years.
Is red slate and black slate the same material, just different color?
That's correct.
Any questions? Thank you. You want to come up and talk to us?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
This is a turnaround. The fact that I am here, I'll respond to your question.
For the record, tell us your name again.
James Dwyer.
You're still under oath? Now you're under oath.
I'm under oath.
How's that? When you wrote this ordinance, did you mean to regulate color?
Well, obviously, we didn't focus on that.
You say color off and on throughout the new standards when you mean color.
In other categories where it was apparent to us as we were drafting, and keep in mind that the drafting went on over an extended period of time, perhaps 10 years, with multiple people contributing to the process over time. And we don't claim that we got it 100% right, but in this instance, it didn't occur to us, as I recall, it didn't occur to us to focus on color. We were focused more on the nature of the material.
We have two sets of testimony. We have staff testimony that red slate and black slate are different materials, and Mr. Rupper's testimony that red slate and black slate are the same thing, just different colors.
Well, that's why you didn't hear from me earlier. It's an example of why you didn't hear from me earlier. May I give you a little background?
Please. Commissioner, is that okay?
The applicants appeared before the Planning and Development Committee a week ago Saturday and presented their case. We had 7 voting members of the committee there. I'm the chairman. I'm included in that 7. And we went through our usual process of considering all of the information, asking the questions, and then the proponents leave and we confer. We did that, and perhaps the proponents were still in the room. Maybe we were trying to accelerate things at that time, but we wound up in a 3-3 deadlock. So it was assigned to me, the responsibility was assigned to me to go out and be the arbiter, which I did. I went out and took photographs, and you've heard testimony about the fact that the back of the roof is black and the front is red. What you haven't heard is that there apparently in the conversation at some point along the way before they came to us, there was discussion about whether to leave the black in place, which I think has been agreed to. I don't think that's an issue. And to continue with the front being red. And there wasn't agreement on that issue. I opted, after I conferred with CRO as well, and with the concurrence of the members of the committee who were present last Saturday, I agreed to stay out of the fight because I didn't have a clear position to articulate on behalf of the committee. I can only speak as an individual. And so, and I didn't think that was my role.
The board, thanks.
So you were able to see this front roof, and you took pictures of the front roof?
Yeah, I have the pictures with me in my phone. Yeah, I took pictures from the back first, thought about it. What did I think about it? You know, what was my reaction? I went around to the front and took multiple pictures, engaged in lengthy conversation with both the applicants and with Jan, and got to the point where it really wasn't clear what the answer should be.
So it wasn't clear how many tiles were damaged beyond repair?
I wasn't looking at it with that in mind. I was simply looking at it for aesthetic purposes. You know, what would the impact be if the front portions of the roof were replaced with black? How would they relate to the gable ends that are red, etc.? That was my perspective.
All right, you brought a standard that repair it if you can.
Correct. Yeah, that's not unusual, though, with slate roofs, for the decision to be made somehow, whether it's because of the insurance company or because of the contractors or the property owners. It is frequently the case that when there is sufficient damage, whatever the magic percentage is, the entire slope, at least, will be replaced.
Well, I'm sure, when we usually see this, it is people who say that the slate roof is damaged beyond repair, and they want to replace it with something other than slate.
Well, you know, that hasn't arisen in this context, but that's an interesting point because there is allowance in the standards for where something is damaged beyond repair to be replaced with a different material. It has happened.
It looked pretty damaged to you?
Well, I didn't look at it with that.
You didn't do what you said you were going to do. Very good.
Almost.
No, but you did. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, Commissioners. We have quite a full record, and we probably need a motion. Anyone comment?
Well, if I propose one, it would only be for discussion purposes because I don't know if we have enough evidence to show that this is not repairable. That's okay. So I'll make a motion that we uphold the director's denial since it doesn't comply with the Central West End Historic District for discussion.
Second for discussion?
Okay. Oh, okay.
Motion seconded for discussion. Yes.
Well, while I agree that, posing the question of whether it should be repaired or replaced, it's worth posing the question. Clearly, insurance companies are in business of making money, and so replacing an entire slate roof, typically what you would do is you could repair it. So I think that's a non-issue.
Have the evidence of the insurance company's parsimony that the roof is damaged beyond repair.
Correct.
Okay, that's a good.
Parsimonious Insurance Company is Exhibit A.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So do we have enough evidence, do you think, that in fact, there was no additional money contributed to this by the homeowner? We have a record of that?
Although the homeowner's testimony was, we could not do this, we could not do that, because insurance would not cover it.
So it's our understanding that the insurance company is paying for this entire...
Yes. And whatever else they could control and die out of it. We have the Slate testimony before us.
So,
I wanted David to say, because normally David is the person who says, it's not in here, we can't do it. But last thing he said to me before he left was, golly, I wonder if when they wrote these standards, they meant to consider color. And so I was trapped into coming up and talking to us. And he said, maybe, sort of, did in some places, but not here, not saying that would apply here. I believe was his exact testimony.
okay.
So, I mean, if in fact they're replacing slate, and the reason they can't repair it is because it's damaged beyond repair, it would seem that a more appropriate motion would be to turn the staff denial and to approve it. But, I mean, we always note in cases like this that at any point the appellant come to talk to CRO during the process before beginning to construct and still leave a proof that avoids this. We're justified in looking very closely at the ordinance so that people like Alderman Schmidt will break down someday and get historic history standards. Therefore,
Fine, if it ends there,
we're fine. What do you think?
I understand staff's concerns and the insurance claim. My reading ordinance and testimony. My question is whether all the fits into the
Yes, I believe we should overturn this based on all the testimony and all the factors at play. It seems so. When you look at slate, it sounds like basically, I mean, they are replacing it with the same materials, just in a different color. And you see the difficulty in matching the color. I believe that they would have attempted to match the color if it were possible, but because it's not possible, they're doing what they can to achieve the best result for the home, which is to have a completely contrasting color, which will blend very nicely.
So, would it be appropriate for me to withdraw my motion?
Under motion, seconded. See what happens. Or he could withdraw the motion. Give us permission. Yes, ma'am.
I will withdraw my motion.
Okay, now, permission, great.
My alternative motion would be that we overturn the director's denial based on our findings that the roof was not repairable, and therefore they are complying with the exact language of the ordinance, which only refers to material and color.
You didn't like her on seconded because she was so fickle the last time.
No.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Yeah,
So, I think we should add that really have the owners apply for a bid to be a non-issue, because they learned through that the intent was color also. And personally don't know about the contract, probably at some point new red.
Catch up to the old red.
Catch up to the old red.
I recall some testimony that the appellant that was in the Central West End just around the time of the Civil War. Been there a while.
87, quite a long time. I remember doing work
In high school. In high school.
In 87, in the Central West End, on, I think, the house.
If they're listening, they probably heard it. Commissioners, there is a motion on the floor that's been made and considered. Yeah.
I think the only way we can get there has nothing to do with whether or not the roof matches or not, because there's a section that talks about preserving it through repair and maintenance. It seems to me the only way we can get to an overturning of the director's determination is for us to find that in fact this roof is not replicable. And that's basically what I was hearing. So if we believe that it was replicable, then I don't think there's any way they can change period color-wise.
I believe that to be true. And we weighed testimony on that subject. Again, this is not a variance, a strict application of these standards.
Right.
Okay? You raised your hand. Commissioner, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, agenda item C, 701 Russell. Yes, please.
The summary review of the gas station and pump canopy at 701 Russell in Soulard. This is the current site. The proposal is to demolish the pump structure, fuel store, and also the car wash in the back, and then construct a new pump structure, canopy, and the strolley back located where the car wash is located. Here's a site map showing you where it's located. West corner of Russell on South 7th Street. So the bird's eye showing the site. The pump canopy will stay the same roughly location-wise, and then the new structure is back here where the car wash is now located. Context. Again, the kind of showing the car wash and where the location of the new store will be located. Context showing the existing kind of a low brick wall that will be staying in place. Across the street is also a newer gas station where we kind of drew some cues from the construction. That's in the lower right corner. To the site plan that we discussed. This is the proposed South Street facade on top, as well as the Russell side. So the all four sides brick. The design is taken from kind of the industrial feel along 7th Street. There's a mix of 1- and 2-story industrial, commercial along that stretch. We took that as the architect to take that as the main design cues for the design of the building. Also kind of have the garage door / storefront feel with the large windows. Here's the back of the building. This is the proposed canopy. We're going to go as minimal as possible with that. The columns that hold up canopy will be either just simple pipe, or will be a very narrow brick column if they go that route. It will be very narrow to the top. Examples of one
Skinniest truck I've ever seen.
right here. That one. It's coming at you, Richard. I get you.
Maybe
There's the kind of a one-story. Again, this is kind of the examples we drew from Health Design. Notice the shaped parapet, brick, very simple, not a lot of detail to the building. The point was to make the new construction kind of blend in with the area, not stand out too much, kind of look past the building, look towards Soulard. Given the location of the building on the edge of the district, we felt that something that was a little more safe would fit well with there. In terms of the standards, the things that stand out that don't necessarily comply would be the setback of the building. If it's not at the street line, but given the use, and also, again, it's spot in the district, we feel it's okay to push this back to the back of the lot. It also matches the design of the station across Russell. And also in terms of model example, again, given the unique use of gas station, it's hard to draw an exact example of that in the area. So drawing several examples to kind of draw inspiration from and beyond that, it complies with the rest of the standards. We had a nice meeting with Soulard. They like the design. The architect's been great. Everything we've asked for, he's done. Owner's been great. So staff is pleased with the proposed design. I would recommend that the board grant approval to proposed construction with installation of that final plans and design details approved by CRO as the new standard. Questions?
Thank you. Mr. Whitmire? Questions for Mr. Whitmire? Thank you, sir. Aaron, do you have a motion?
Yes. That the Preservation Board grant preliminary approval for the proposed new construction with the stipulation that final plans and design details will be approved by the Cultural Resources Office for compliance with the district standards.
Second. Motion on the floor, been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to reconvene as the appeals board again and hear 1409 on road.
I'm Jan Cameron from the Social Research Office. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce into the record for a certified copy of Ordinance 689, our enabling legislation. My presentation, the agenda before you, and PowerPoint. This is 1409 Monroe. Demolition was applied for and denied by the director. It's located in the Murphy-Blair National Register District, and therefore is in our preservation review area. There is the creek area, obviously, is the district. It is towards the western edge of the district. Please note that there has been some impact of demolition and loss. However, the remainder of the district still has strong blocks, and loss of any elements within it becomes critical relating to its eligibility for the National Register. So, a Google shot. This building. Looking at the eastern elevation. Now, please note how sound the front of this building looks. This is actually
actually an interesting building, because I believe it dates from about 1855 or thereabouts. This part of it does. At some point, it got a fashionable massive roof. And you can see, actually, the line of the original gabled roof. Right. So it's a building of some significance, and it's one of the older buildings in the neighborhood. It's one room deep originally, had additions on the back, one of which is being impacted by this large tree, which has impacted the foundation. Another, an L on the back. This was brick and park open porch. So the front block of the building is very good and very sound, but this certainly is not. I think you can see the area where the lamps would go. Another aerial shot showing the tree growing up. Now, while these trees, which are known familiarly as garbage trees, but are volunteer trees, more appropriately, real quickly, but this tree has been there for quite a while. Looking directly west, see the variety of additions that have happened to the building. Now we're proceeding along Monroe to the west, large vacant area, and these buildings which have been, in the last 2 years, rehabilitated by the Old North St. Louis neighborhood association. This is directly opposite the building and is an LRA property that was not maintained, and in speaking with the Old North St. Louis representative, despite many claims that it caught fire, and it looks like now. And we're proceeding on the opposite side of the street to the west. And again, we have rehab occupied buildings on the same lot. A little bit of context around the building itself is famous Constance. That's directly to the north along the Alps. I spoke to Sean Thomas from the Old North St. Louis Restoration Group. They never support a building because they are so concerned about the fragility of their district, and the loss of any building is critical to its eligibility, as I said before. However, in this particular instance, even when he doesn't really want to take a stand, he says in this instance he would be against demolition. I don't have that in writing, because unfortunately he didn't have much notice, but I did speak with him. So the staff is recommending that the building be stabilized. This director's denial be upheld, and that we preserve this building in hope of it having a better future.
Any questions? Thank you for your patience.
I'm Marvin Nicolason, and I live at, my address would be 1318 Lake Sherwood.
Did your testimony want to be the truth?
Every bit of it. And I'm going to say some things that you think that it's off the subject of this, but it's going to pertain to the subject as we get into it, if it's okay with you.
I've got a gavel.
And I know what you're after, and I'm 100% for it, but you're right and you're wrong, you're right and you're wrong, and I'm just asking for a little common sense on this thing. And I'm glad that I can talk to you. I've been through the whole gamut as far as the process of this, talking to a lot of people. I've met a lot of people, and so much for that. Getting to the history of the thing, mother-in-law and father-in-law own this place, and it's been in the family for 125 years. And they purchased it from a guy who built it for his wife, and his wife died. It would be my father-in-law at that time. But, and he wanted to rent it, and he couldn't, and it laid idle for about 5 years. And the reason he couldn't rent it is because the owner, the builder, the garage back there, he had it rented to the syndicate. And they were running booze out of that in Chicago. And they was putting vegetables in it. And he said, if I rent it to you, or sell it to you, he said, they'll kill you if you interfere with it. Every Thursday, they're there. That's the story that I've had. My father-in-law died at 87, and he was a baby of 7. They were all born and raised in that house. And it's been there. So about 21 years ago, the last sister died. And my father-in-law, and he offered it to me for $1,000. Well, he wanted to give it to me, or give it to the city, and I said, no, I'll take it. Because I've had background in it, that I've worked for jail, had 3 screw machines, 27 homes, and I did that. And I also was employed with McDonald Douglas, so it was a hobby. And I got involved in everything. But anyway, I received this house, and I went in, and it's a cold water house, you know what I mean? It's got a corner sink in the thing. There's no hot water. They got a little shed out there they take a bath in. And when I started rehabilitating this thing, I started running some pipes on the baseboard. I said, no, I can't do this. So I put all new plumbing in the thing, everything else. It had 1 toilet in it. I made a full bath in downstairs. Put half a bath upstairs. I cut a hole in the middle room and put stairs going down. And you only had about 5 foot left after the stairs come down, and with 5 foot or 6 foot of my walls, my full bath. So there's not much in that little room. And I put 4 stairs in it. And I had it all hooked up for central air. I dropped the ceilings in, lowered the ceilings down. Anyway, I rented that for a while. And 5 or 6 years, 7 years, and everything was fine. Until she moved out. And somebody come in and stripped it, the plumbing and everything else. I had insurance on it. They gave me $10,000. And I come back in and I did it all over again. I got it fixed up, and I rented it again. And she moved out, her and her boy. They come in and they stripped it. They took the furnace out, added all the cabinets and everything else that I had in there. Sink, plumbing, everything. I had piped it and everything else, and it was completely stripped. And then people moved in it, inside it. And I went to the police department. And the police department said they don't deal in that. That's my problem. I take it to the city. They don't take people out of homes or settlements, whatever you want to call it. I said, okay. Well, as time went on, I retired. And my father-in-law died. But until the last one died, I swore I'd never sell that place. And keep it as nice. And I put it up in modern. So I wasn't a bad landlord, you might say, or a after the damn money. I had other pieces of rental property too. But anyway, I bought a farm up north. And I built a log cabin up there, and it's behind, and everything else, and everything is fine. I would get in trouble with the city periodically, like every other year, to pay the bill of mowing and cleaning it up. You saw there was 4 vacant lots on the side of that building. They would mow that thing, clean that building up, and clean the bottles up from the tavern behind there, and whatnot. They would send me the bill because I was the only one that had a house number. Believe it or not, it took 3 years to get that straight, and my wife kept writing checks out. So I had to get on her ass, and I said, no. I said, I got it straightened out. Then, sure enough, next summer, 3 months into it, and you have your little cleanups and everything else, I would get a bill. Well, this is going on, and finally, going to this guy, I got it straightened out. Well, that's not so bad. And I got interested in building that cabin up there and other parts of the life. The thing was completely gutted, tore up and whatnot. Structurally, I had put 3/4-inch rods through that thing, and you'll see the 3 or 4-inch angle iron on the sides where they used to put stars in that in there. When I lowered those ceilings, the mortar was completely dead. If you go all the way up to the attic, that mortar is all dead and everything else. I wanted to get some tuck pointing done, and I did. Somebody down there that told me about it and everything else. I take cement down there, give him my mortar box and whatnot, take it up there. Well, he moves out of town, and I lost my equipment. It never has been done. These 21 years, if you can take those bricks in and out upstairs. It's dead. Yeah, it's still standing. The pictures that you have today, I would do it over again, and it looks sound, and it looks good. I understand that you're after the architectural part of it, and I understand that too. I was in it, and I did it before times. It's a hell of a lot nicer now, and it's a nice area, and I appreciate what you've done up there and what the different organizations have done. Now, I'm down there, going to spray some pesticide and that on the ground to keep it cleaned up as well as I can with bricks all over the place. It is nasty. And the city comes by, and he pulls up while I'm down there working, and he says, I got to take some pictures of your house. And I said, before you do that, let me talk to you. I said, I know it's condemned. And I said, I've been going through this for years. And I said, I don't know what the hell to do with it. Well, he said, why don't you get it torn down? I said, I would like to. Who do I get in touch with? Where? I don't know anything down here. It's 40 miles from where I live, or 60 miles from where I live. He said, I can't tell you. He said, but you know over by Jefferson or where? I said, I don't really know. I can't tell you. I don't know how to get there. He said, I got to go over there and meet a guy in 15 minutes. He said, follow me over. And he said, I'll show you. And he said, it's a good time of the year because the city's out of money. And he said, those people are starving down there. And he said, you might get a good deal as far as the demolition of your place. But he said, I can't recommend who to take or anything else. He said, it's not my job. He said, I'm not going to get in trouble with it. He said, but there are some that's better than others. So we come up with some names, and I asked him about this guy here, and he said, I don't think he'd have any problems with it. I said, all I want is somebody to tear that thing down, the city get off my ass, that's exactly what I told him, and not have any problems, and it's all taken care of right. But we've never had any problems, and the city works with this guy a lot. I said, okay. Well, it just so happens that guy pulls up, and he said, this is Mr. Nicolason, and so-and-so. I said, okay. He said, I got to go. He said, that's between your business. So him and I struck up a deal. We went over and looked at it and everything else, and we wrote a contract up. And I got a contract, and I told him I was going out of town and that, and he was going to start next week. Well, I come back the second week, and nobody had started a thing. And I started looking the guy up, because I'd give him $1,000. I found him, and he said, Nicolason, he said, I need another $300 for the lawyers down there. He said, I got to have a lawyer to sign off on it. There's 3 of them. But he said, I need $300. So I gave him another $300. That was $1,300. Off goes, nothing happens, and nothing happens, nothing happens. And then, I don't know, about a month and a half later, I talked to Mrs. And we discussed back and forth and that, and she kept telling me it doesn't meet the criteria. Well, I understand now what she's talking about when she talks about criteria, but for 4 months now, I didn't know. It was always a criteria. All I know is the place is ready to kill somebody, and it's ready to fall down on. And it bothers me. Now, she told me I could clean that backyard up and whatnot, and I said, okay. But I don't want to do that. I said, I got a contract, they're going to clean the whole thing up and do it. So, you got to clean it up. Well, I was reluctant. And as time went on, I thought about it, and I thought, well, I'll get a front loader and a dumpster down there. And I called around, I found out how much dumpsters were, I found out how much the track hole would be. And that was right at, I don't know, or something like, it was 700. But anyway, they turned around and 300 something for the tractor. And she says, you're gonna need 2 dumpsters, one for brick and one for wood. Now, I got wood and everything else scattered all over, I'm gonna clean this thing up. And it's gonna cost me $1,900, almost $2,000, to clean up a mess that's only from here to the house away. I said, okay. So I called Mrs. Sloan up again, and I said, I've had all this subcontracted out, and I know how much it's going to cost me, but I said it's gone up another $300-something, $400 for this other dumpster. I said, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm canceling out on the whole thing. And my insurance cost me $500 a month. I can go for 2 or 4 years with the problem that we have. And she said, boy, it's funny how people's minds change, or a guy gets up in the morning and the whole world changes the opposite way. Am I right or wrong with a conversation like that? And I know I'm spending your time, but this is laying it out as we get into this, okay? Now, here's the contracts that I've had, and I've had 2 of them up in this last time, and they've been turned down.
They're contracts for what?
Demolition of the house. And now you want, what are you going to do with the property? I want to get rid of the property. It's been in my family for 100-some years. I'll fight for this thing. This is what we propose, the wife and I, cleaning it up, having it nice, making the city nice, and everything else like we've tried to do for the last, we'll say, 125 years. I'll take part of my other relatives. But I wanted to put a plaque on the ground by the sidewalk there in front of that plaque, level with the grass and whatnot, saying that there was a family here, Steens, that born 7 kids raised here, and both the last 25 years. That's what was written to the board and whatnot. And anyway, those are the contracts of the day. Now,
could you outline for me what remains of your presentation?
The house itself and the problems. I'm getting you what, taking care of you.
No. Are you aware of the ordinance? You have
easier?
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any evidence directly applying to these? Let's shift to that if you don't mind.
Yeah, okay. In fact, that was the end of what I had to say, so. All right, we'll get into the house. Can I step closer? Sure. Exhibit 3. If you turn the page where all the houses are.
Take those down to the down. There should be them for you. Take them to the lady on the end.
Maybe that one, see that exhibit, you can pass that down.
What I want to show is, I'll explain these and then we can do it. This here is the end of that house, and it's a fairly good looking wall, and that's what you're saying, it's a good wall on that house now. If I can just show you, there's all 3 of the houses there, or 4 different views. You see this wall right here? That is this wall right here. The significant part about this is you see this crack in here, is because this is all going to be pulled off here this year. It's going to collapse. How do I know that? We'll get to that in a second. That's the end of the house. This is the porch that you're going inside of. That's the porch. Here is a monstrous tree that's growing from the inside of the house. It came out of the house inside.
I'm not sure if we're making a record here. I don't know if the record can hear him. Can it hear him?
I think so.
Okay, good. That's fine. We just want to make sure the record. Okay, good.
Now, there's another picture of that closer to the thing. You can see this whole wall falling out. This wall is off of its first floor. It's out that far, and it's hanging on that tree root right there on that edge, a little 3-inch root that this whole wall is hanging on. And that wall is hooked to that first picture that you saw coming down there. That's why it's cracking and ready to bust it off. When that wall drops, go off and close. So here I'm going to hold up for a little bit. The fence I put up to keep everybody out of it right now so nobody gets hurt because they can't get insurance on it. Insurance is a drop. You're looking all over the state and asking everybody, the community and everything, nobody can come up with an insurance company. I was paying $500 a month, they dropped it. That's why I told her that I could do it for 4 years. Now I can't. Now it's an emergency that this gets taken care of. Those roots are into that second room. They're into the middle room. They're into the roof. They're completely taken over, and on the other side of that, there's a shell there, so there's nothing there. And this outside wall here is now leaning about 8 inches over. So it'll fall in the old hallway there. There's nothing there. That wooden fence that you see here.
Have you brought with you any estimates of what it would cost to stabilize the property?
No way to stabilize it. Absolutely nothing. It's got rods through it and everything else, and it's cracked and it's leaning. And you got a tree in the middle of that baby that I will say that'll kill anybody that tries to do it.
And am I correct, it was your testimony that you have not attempted to sell the house?
I have tried to sell it.
Would you introduce that evidence, please?
Yep. First of all, several years ago, I had gotten from the North County or whatever it is, they sent the thing out of my picture and whatnot, and things said, would you sell this house and everything else? And I sent it back, and I never heard anything from them. I had companies to do it, nothing. I got a daughter that's in the finance business. She's Tracy Rothing. And she's with USA, owns her own business and everything else. And she's got 8 acres to work for. And nobody wants to invest in it. Nobody would even advertise. Put it on the market. It's, to their knowledge, it's shot.
Does she market many properties in Old North?
Now, what the problem that I just talked about?
Are they located in St. Louis? Are they located in St. Louis?
She's got Now, getting back a little bit on the subject there, as we've been getting into this and talking to everybody, here comes the city again. But we talked about it, I know the problem is, but he said the neighbor complained. And the neighbor complained, said that you got a hole in the yard. He said, Nick, he said, this is what I'm going to kick the dirt in. But I had to write you up on the building too, because they could cause mosquitoes and water traffic and whatnot. So, do all this thing right here, here's the building. I did it. I went down there and I did. I had about an 8-inch hole, well, maybe a foot hole, completely square. Dirt on 4 sides. I don't know why anybody dug it. I don't know if they was looking for bottles or worms or what. But it was there. And I took care of that. Then I cost another guy for $150 to clean some of the stuff out of the shed so I could tear it down. And we worked for 2 months with extensions and everything else because I went working for everything else and had to tear this place out. So I rented a dumpster and all that and cleaned it all up. And then I built a fence to block the thing, which is here. Because I don't have any insurance or anything else. And I can't get it tore down. And I know it's a historic because it looks real good there. But I can tell you every gutter. And if you look, you'll see brown shingles on that. I roofed the whole house, too. I've been through every inch of that house. And the front wall that you see in front of that house, upstairs, it drew moisture so bad that I put 5/8 cedar and whatnot to hold that wall in. The plastic, the wallpaper was okay, but it drawn in. I painted the outside so that it wouldn't draw in. and I siliconed it, sprayed it outside so it wouldn't come in. Now, it went for 3 or 4 years, no windows in it, before it was ever boarded up. I don't know what damage it did yet. I gave up on it. And it's bad. Now I got a tree in there that's going to kill somebody. And the house is 2/3 tentacles all in it. And it must look plaster because it's going like mad. It really did the job on it this year. And when we get a windstorm, it's sitting on a 3-inch little nub there, and the whole wall's going to come in, and the other wall's going to come in. Now, who's going to clean that mess up?
Did you bring an engineering report? No. Okay. What else have you got?
No. I went and talked to the neighbors around there. And when I was down there working, and I had this written up. And just says that you think it's going to say, leave it or down, one way or the other, you don't have to sign it. And everybody I talked to signed it. Everybody. And the funny part about it is they told me 3 or 4 people where to go and do it, and everything else. I could have gone on and on and on. Because the repository, there's been people there, and what they think of St. Louis isn't very good. Now, I understand you're after the architectural aspect, and it's shot. But I got this tree here that nobody can get inside without getting killed because its tentacles are all in it. And the pictures will show that. Now, I cleaned that area. I put that area in it. And this is the dumpster. Everything else that I've done, I got my place all cleaned up. I put a wall in there to keep anybody from out of the house. Here's a view of 4 directions. If that place disappears tomorrow, it'll still look nice around there, and it'll look a lot better than what it is. That's the 4 directions. Now, getting back here, the paid in full, insurance and everything else, and on the back is where they turned it down because it's in too poor shape. Now, I had a broker who looked all over the place. And this broker found another insurance company, and he says, Nick, he said, you're not going to believe the price of this. I said, fire, lay it on me. $10,500 a year. $3,500 for 29 days to insure if they're going to tear it down. That was my option. So therefore, I couldn't let the house stand, couldn't do anything. And then I get other problems with tearing the shed down and this and that, and I took care of that. I've done everything that I know that I can. And my expenses on that right there, here's one. I paid that $1,000 and $300. Got nothing back from the city, the insurance, or the lawyers. They wouldn't pay a thing back. And the insurance said, we'll give you $50. That was the city. Then you turn right around, recycling of it was $150. Trailer was $320. And the dumpster was $350. Coming $809.50 just to clean up my mess that I wanted to clean up to start off with. Plywood and everything else was $170. It comes to $2,279 just to make it look a little nice for half a piece of profit. The other one's going to kill somebody. And the front is leaning a little bit, which doesn't show in that picture. And that wall on the outside, you want to do also? You put it up there. Then you get into...
Did you bring any of the components to sign?
Yes, sure. There's several.
Did you actually...
No. I could have got 50 more, and 50 more after that if I had spent time. In fact, there's one woman there said, I can't do all this. I said, I can't run up there. I said, I'm 30. Sweated up. I'm working on it. And she said, oh, my friends will let you go down there. He says, if you had a suit on, we wouldn't even talk to you.
Okay.
Now, that's what she told me.
For the record.
For the record, the city would object to the introduction to signatures that can't be substantiated, that bear the names of persons who are not here to testify.
Okay. Continue.
Well, anyway, they all Anybody I asked, and they would 85 more. And I'm at the standpoint right now, I have no idea. I played all the games. I've been honest with you. It's been in the family for 125 years. I have no intentions of giving it to the city or giving it away. And I have no more intention of putting another buck into that thing because the tree's going to take care of it. Now, who's going to clean it up after I take care of it? I'm not sure if I'm even going to do that. I'm done. And I just hope that I explained this enough or good enough in my part. I'm sorry I took that much time as far as my personal feelings about that, but I am in a rock and a hard spot. And while I was bringing that stuff up in the past is we tried to take care of our property. I've done everything that I could possibly do. And if you want a certain structure up there, you're only going to have it for another year. I guarantee you. I'm not doing a thing to it. I can't do anything to it. And the tree's going to do it.
You think you're going to do everything you want to?
I don't know. That was the shed, and that's right up in that, which is a clean lot. But,
do you have questions? Do you have comments?
I do. So,
would you step back to the podium, sir? Thank you.
So I think I got most of this, but I had some questions. Some of them may seem more relevant than others. But
okay.
So you talked about the work that you did, and you rented it for 5 or 6 years, and you had the first set of renters in, and then it was stripped, and there was a second set of renters in, and they moved out. When did that second set of renters move out?
Oh, probably 10, 12 years ago.
10 or 12 years ago.
Yeah.
When did the windows go out of the building?
Well, the windows went out of the building probably 15 years ago, or no. Whenever the people moved out and they tore it up, and I don't know what the exact date was at, everything just went.
Okay, so 10 or 15 years ago, the people moved out and the windows were gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Everything else too.
Yeah, I actually do have a question. So it doesn't sound like you made. I mean, I certainly understand your predicament here. You've got a lot invested in it. However, there are people that may be willing to take on such a project in that area.
Well, they've been for the last 15 years.
Well, I don't. Have you? I think you mentioned that you really haven't marketed or made an attempt of it.
I've asked around with real estate, and realtors have gone down there. And my daughter's company has gone down there, and nobody wanted to invest in it because there was like 6 or 7 people. Oh, I'm sure. And I had sent this letter back to the North, whatever it was, at one time, and they could put it up for sale, do whatever they want to buy it. Never have heard anything from anybody. I haven't heard from anybody but one time in the last 20 years. It's been up for sale, and right now it's not up for sale as far as I'm concerned. It's shot, and I don't want anybody going in there and getting hurt. You got a tree, and it's rotten as hell, and it's ready to fall any minute, and it's not going to last over another year or two. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And I think I've got enough construction behind me to know when it's bad, and there's no sense in spending. And I've heard from other people, you get 40% off, and I said, I don't want my tax money spent after that. I mean, it's so bad. And I don't want anybody's money or anybody that's collecting 40 cents on the dollar, the government. I don't want your taxes spent that way. I understand the history of it and the thing, but within another year and a half, you're not going to have anything anyway. Well, I don't know what to do.
And I know this is not, this has no direct bearing on a decision from us. I just offered this as a helpful thing because I'm hearing from you the importance of this building and your family and your desire to have it recognized and all of that. I heard that loud and clear. And so what I have seen happen, and today is different than it was 15 years ago. You have a number of people that may be interested. They're not the usual realtors that you would find outside of a very select number of people who would be interested. And they might be interested in redeveloping that property, which would then give you the opportunity potentially to have that recognized as part of that redevelopment. I don't think there's a lot of people that would care other than you personally for your family in terms of recognizing an empty lot. They might be interested in recognizing a rehab building that would reflect the fact that, yes, this family was here and helped to preserve this woman.
There won't be enough left for anybody.
Well, I offered that as an option.
Right, no, I understand that, but here's the other, I stopped by this afternoon and I talked to C.N. Thomas or whatever it is, from Old North or whatever, and he told me today, not last year, year before last, and you'd have been right. From his words, you're wrong, because it's no longer feasible to do it.
But it would have been a year and a half ago. Is that what he said?
Yeah, a year and a half ago, you could, and you could have investors coming in and invest money. Today, he said it's gone beyond that, and he said you can't do it. He said, I can't sign your little paper there for the simple reason I've signed contracts stating that I wouldn't do this and that.
Is there a motion?
I move that the Preservation Board uphold the Director's denial of the demolition application for 1408 Monroe Street and recommend that appropriate steps be taken to stabilize and preserve the building.
A second?
Well, I'm not going to stabilize it. I'm not going to do anything to it. And if a person mentions Sue to me, I'll kill him. Simple as that. I have no other recourse.
What you just testified to?
I said, I can't do anything or anything else. I said, the first person that wants to sue me, and I can't get any insurance, and rather than losing in a 73, he's not going to walk out of it. I don't have any other choice.
Okay, Commissioners, there's a motion on the floor. It's been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are told for staff denial.
Okay.
So that would actually belong to us.
We're making copies.
Oh. Let me ask you this one other question. You'll get copies back. I'm sorry, sir. I do not want to talk to you.
We're making copies. Mark that for adjourn.
Sorry, Commissioner, any further business?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded. Very adjourned.